Military chiefs meet to disband the corps regiment as the gallows are publicly erected in the city for Erwin's execution. In the throne room, Erwin tells the king and nobles how the corps regiment acts as a spear to protect humanity. If Worro is broken, the residents are gonna take refuge in Sina Castle again, but the previous evacuation had destroyed the grain reserves. This time, all the residents are forced to fight for resources, as a civil war will break out between Worros and Worsina. Furthermore, Worros is always short of food, so the best way to avoid war is to reclaim Womaria. Gerard tells about how Erwin refused to hand over Eren Yeager several times and called it violation. Deltop adds up that Eren took too much risk when allowing a single commander to control. Pixis is worried about Garrison is gonna ally himself with the corps. He wants to avoid humans being killed by him. If the corps regiment is a spark which is likely to start the fire, it must be put down. The nobles agree. Erwin is sentenced to death for violating the human charter, and his execution will proceed immediately. When Erwin stands up, Anka busts into the throne room and announced that Rose Castle had been broken into. She announced that the Great Titan and the Armored Titan had broken through both the gates of Kalanet County. Auril trembles as Pixie calls for the establishment of an evacuation road. Auril defied Pixie's order and demanded the gates of Sina to be closed. Knight was shocked because if he did, half of humanity would die. At this time, a fierce quarrel breaks out between the authorities and the military police. Zachary comes and explains to the nobles that the Arlet is false. Pixie confessed that he was behind this plan. He would be pleased to hand over everything to the government if it is a better choice for mankind. Even though the military knows less about the Titan than the nobles do, they can save more lives than the government ever did. Pixis declares that their action is a coup and internal police has been subdued. Zachary informed that those soldiers will obey their superior instead of the king. Pixis adds that they will rule their own to replace the fake king. Zachary's soldiers escorted the nobles away and Erwin was free. The following night, Han and Moblit bring news of the successful coup. Zachary has taken over the capital and the nobles could not rebel, which made the group extremely happy. Earlier that day, Zachary made an announcement about overthrowing the previous government at Erwin's gallows. Nine assured everyone that they are not trying to establish military rules, but to establish a new ruler of the real royal family. Erwin's on the carriage with Zachary, expressing his doubts about the path they had chosen. After all, the government has been trying to keep humanity alive so far. Losing half is better than all. Zachary tells Erwin that the death is an easy option and asks him why he doesn't do it if it bothers him. Zachary explains that he has been disgusted by the government all the time and dreamed of this day for ages before Erwin. Back to that evening, Han recounted how some robbers raided and set fire to the church, causing Rod Reiss' whole family to be killed except Rod, who was still alive. Just a few days before Historia's mother was killed by the Home Office, Rod searched for Historia immediately after losing his family. There must be something extraordinary in her bloodline. However, what interested them is that parts of the church was completely destroyed despite being made of stone. Destroying it would take a lot of work. Later than that, Rod has to use his assets to rebuild. This place is well worth to discover. Armin then asked Eren when did he become Titan and who did he eat. In the crystal cave, Eren is struggling to rescue himself from the chains. Historia is on a wide road and looking up at Eren. She was trying to reassure Eren that her father is with mankind and they are wrong about him. Rod and Historia put their hands on Eren's back, making him experience familiar memories. He sees Rod and his family in an underground cave, a Titan, a burning church, a cop, his father's keys, and his younger self turning into a Titan who ate his father. Rod asked Eren if he remembers his father's sins now. Many years ago, a girl with black hair came to the farm to visit Historia and help her learn to read. She encouraged Historia to be more aristocratic, like a girl who appears in her book named Krista. As the world was suffering, the girl with the black hair wished that Historia would become a helpful person. This girl then apologized for leaving, then erased Historia's memory until they could see each other again. Back to the present, Historia is in a world as her lost memories are now returned. She realized that she was not lonely during her childhood as she had thought. There has been someone always on her side. Rod concludes that Itiferiada, Historia's half-sister, and she must have erased Historia's memory to protect herself. When Historia asks where is Feriada so she can thank her, Rod informs his daughter that she is no longer in this world. 5 years ago, Grista Yerger killed Rod's wife and his 5 children to steal the power of the Reiss family. Historia asks her father why Grista did that. Meanwhile, they are interrupted by Kenny Ackerman. Kenny informs them of the coup, and all the soldiers have switched sides. The entire squad has been arrested and the public knew about the false king. He requires Rod to pack everything up as the cops will be here soon. Zachary has finished Aurel's torture. The nobles will hang up and gotta eat upside down. Not to be subdued, Aurel tells Zachary that Zachary's blood is slave blood and is different from the nobles' one, hence he will lose his memory soon. Elsewhere, Pixis informs Owen that all the officials are saying the same thing as Aurel. Reiss family has to be able to change memory as Owen's father suspects. Only certain bloodlines are immune, which means that if Rod got hold of Eren's scream, the coup would be for nothing. Levi's squads keep going to the church. Levi warns his team that Kenny will be their biggest obstacle. The team expressed concern about whether they could really beat Kenny. But Armin thinks it's gonna happen because training and combat experience are 2 different things. In the cave, Kenny reminds a conversation with his bedridden grandfather. His grandfather asked if he still came out and killed the soldier. Kenny freely admits yes. He told his grandfather that a branch of the family has moved out near Sigansina district, but someone has interfered their business so they were still poor. Kenny asked him why it happened when they used to be the warrior protecting the king. He said the king's power allowed him to change mankind's memory, except for some bloodlines. Among them, there were 2 bloodlines that turned their back on the king, the Ackermans and the Orientals. Kenny also told his grandfather that he found his sister, Kushal Ackerman, in a whorehouse and she was pregnant with one of her clients. Levi's squads find a way to come into the cave. Kaven informed other soldiers that they have to deal with at least 7 enemies, including Levi, and this time they don't have any advantage in being ambushed. They cannot account for internal police or government. Rod Reiss returned with a bag in hand. He kneels down and takes a syringe out of his bag. Eren realized that is the thing that his father had used to him. Suddenly, barrels of gunpowder roll down the stairs. Levi's squad is here. Sasha fires a fiery arrow that causes the barrel to explode. This creates a thick smoke so that Levi and Mikasa can start their attacks. The smokes make it difficult for the control team to find. The control team's mobility device requires them to move forward in the same direction as their anchor, so they are unable to attack someone who's behind them. Once they narrow the space, the sword has an advantage over guns. Jean and Connie both take out enemies, while Sasha and Armin provide enveloping fine powers. Kaven realized that the cop might get closer to them, and their swords would give them advantage. The control team is in the chance of elimination. Kenny arrives and shoots Levi to get his attraction. Levi throws an ollie back to Kenny, but Kenny stops it and creates a fireball. Levi jumps over to cut Kenny out, but it does not make him lose combat ability. Han approaches, but Kaven shoots an anchor from a moving device to her shoulder. Han is thrown into the world and falls to the ground. A member of the control team casts a large net to prevent the cops from following behind. Kenny goes ahead to protect the Reiss. Back at Historia and Eren's place, Rod was preparing to perform some kind of ritual. To know the answer, please wait for our next video. For now, goodbye and see you soon.